Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. My name is Natalie Moore, and I am a student at Washington State University. For the last 6 months, I have been here, conducting research at the Hanford History Project, the historical archive for the Hanford site. I'm now joined by nuclear physicist Dr. Enrico Fermi to answer some questions you may have about Hanford. Dr. Fermi, would you like to tell the wonderful people at home all about Hanford? That's okay. I will tell them. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with Hanford, Hanford is a nuclear facility that sits right here in the Tri-Cities region of Washington State. It was built in the 1940s for the production of plutonium used in the atom bomb and other nuclear weapons for World War II and the Cold War. When we think of Hanford, oftentimes we think of stories told with an air of American pride. Stories about how we managed to defeat the Soviet Union in the race to create nuclear weapons while simultaneously defeating our enemies with them. However, we seldom hear about the more shameful side of those stories and the criticism that Hanford received after the war. Well, today, folks, I'm going to be shedding light on that very topic. I hope you enjoy.
But manufacturing atomic bombs created unforeseen dangers. In the process, Hanford released dangerous radioactive iodine over several years, beginning in 1944. The radiation spread over parts of eastern Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. It was dubbed the downwind area. In the line of fire, more than 270,000 people in eastern Washington, but no one knew. It wasn't until last July that most people learned of the dangers. The U.S. government finally admitted that radiation levels back in the 40s were high enough to cause cancers and thyroid problems.
In the 1950s, fallout from atomic weapons tests drifted into communities downwind from the blasts in Nevada, Arizona, and Utah. Not till last month did the government agree to pay victims in those states $50,000 each, even though at the time of the test there was supposedly little danger.
Program to bring you important news. Word has just been received from the Atomic Energy Commission that due to a change in wind direction, the residue from this morning's atomic detonation is drifting in the direction of St. George. It is suggested that everyone remain indoors for 1 hour or until further notice. There is no danger. This is simply routine Atomic Energy Commission safety procedure.
Just practicing.
Cold War secrets have been spilling out lately, but not the full story of some Americans who lived downwind from a secret U.S. nuclear experiment in the American Northwest. What did happen to those people on the night of Operation Green Run? Bob Fall reports tonight's Eye on America.
Eastern Washington today looks much as it did then, 42 years ago, when the U.S. government conducted an experiment here so secret that even now, 42 years later, the government still won't talk about it.
Is this the area where the people live who have been affected?
This on the next street, 12,
12 people on one street,
within 3 blocks.
all suffering from cancer.
Has this ever happened to you? It's late at night and you're running down the middle of the highway completely naked and screaming to passing motorists? Well, this could be avoided through one simple method, staying home and watching TV.
Next house, cancer in this house. A man and a woman lived here by the name of Voss, Jack Voss. He died with cancer. She had a deformed child, and she drowned the child in the bathtub, and then she committed suicide that same day.
We are the spark in the engine, the switch in the night, a voice in the dark, from a million miles away.
Down the road farther, the next household, the father died of cancer, the mother has leukemia right now, and the daughter has thyroid cancer and takes thyroid medication.
We go hand in hand, you and me. We are threads in the invisible tapestry.
People helping people. At GE, it's part of everything we do.
Somebody somewhere sat down and said, let's keep lying to them and keep saying it over and over and they'll believe it. And we did. And some people still do.
This is the story of a product that General Electric manufactures, but doesn't advertise to the public, and of the people who are working to change the deadliest business of all, the nuclear weapons industry.
Gene Wilder has a problem. Someone is trying to scare him to death.
That's exciting.
This is a community in conflict. It has the dubious distinction of possibly becoming the main repository for nuclear waste in the United States. The federal government wants to haul dangerous, high-level radioactive waste from all over the country to their backyard, where it would remain lethal for tens of thousands of years. So far, almost every other American community considered has said, no, don't you dare. But this community is different. This had always been nuclear heaven, because just up the road is the Hanford Nuclear Reservation in Washington State. Hanford is the home of the nation's first full-scale nuclear reactor, built in the 1940s, part of the Manhattan Project. It was World War II. Men and women were brought in to secretly build the nuclear reactors that produced the plutonium for the Nagasaki bomb. They worked and played in the spirit of the times. No one knew what they were building. All they knew, it was for the good of the country, and they were proud.
2 years ago, Energy Secretary James Watkins went to the Hanford nuclear site. There he made a promise to change the way employees who raise safety concerns are treated.
Part of my cultural message there today was we should applaud whistleblowers.
But even now, employees who blow the whistle on their employer for unsafe or illegal practices say they rarely hear applause.
All of those promises are hollow. They are obviously intended to silence the growing outrage over what is happening on the Hanford site.
For example, one whistleblower warned pumping the unknown mixture of radioactive waste from underground storage tanks could spark an explosion, exposing people to radiation as far as 12 miles away. So the whistleblower, engineer Inez Austin, refused to okay a plan to pump these tanks dry. She took her concerns to her boss.
And when I wouldn't give in, he tried to fire me.
But last July, 2 government reports vindicated her, and pumping has been stopped until the contents of these tanks are analyzed. Another whistleblower, senior safety engineer Sonia Anderson, claims Westinghouse, the contractor which has run the Hanford site since 1987, has committed outright fraud. For example, she accused Westinghouse of reporting to the government only 5,000 gallons leaked from one radioactive tank, despite evidence up to 570,000 gallons leaked into the ground over a period of years. Anderson's report was suppressed. The finding was later confirmed by the government. Earlier, Anderson had discovered another contractor posted guards on the roof of this plutonium-uranium extraction facility. Anderson tried but failed to get them moved after learning they were exposed to fumes of nitric oxide and acid. For decades, workers made nuclear weapons in secret at Hanford for our nation's defense. In today's workforce, it's the whistleblowers who've begun to unveil the ultimate cost of that legacy, the devastating nuclear contamination which will last for thousands of years.
What do you say? Call it a day. 5 o'clock is here. Now you're talking after work. Now you're talking beer. Now you're talking good times. And Stroh's is spoken here.
Stroh's, fire brewed for smooth, consistent taste.
Governor Goldsmith says there are liars in the Energy Department. He and Western governors today asked Congress to intervene in the search for a nuclear waste site. In approving the resolution, which was sponsored by Washington Governor Booth Gardner, the governors condemned the Department of Energy's site selection process. They're calling it secretive and politically motivated.
They can roll over us based on the process in terms of site selection? What will they do in terms of transportation or power plants or other issues that would impact us or neighboring states? And that's why we have this concern.
I believe the United States Department of Energy is lying. Just plain lying. I think they are hiding documents, and every time we go through discovery, we find more.
There are new disclosures tonight about radioactive traces in the groundwater near Hanford. Monitoring over the last 2 decades shows radioactive iodine has migrated beneath the Columbia River and groundwater from the Hanford Reservation. Northwest congressmen on the House Energy Committee contend that disqualifies Hanford according to the DOE's own criteria.
Hanford Nuclear Reservation in Washington State is in trouble again on several fronts tonight. First, the Federal Energy Department says it's still having problems with its investigation into a possible safety violation during the 1985 visit to that facility by Washington Governor Booth Gardner. Investigators say they are getting conflicting testimony and that some evidence of possible attempts at altering documents. During Gardner's visit, some signs that warned of a radiation spill were taken down.
Good evening, I'm Julie Emery.
And I'm Jeff Gianola. A surprising decision out of Washington, D.C. tonight that has a major impact on the Northwest. It appears Hanford may be off the hook as the site of the nation's nuclear waste dump. Congressmen have tentatively agreed to put the dump in Nevada. The deal was cut during the closing hours of Congress as they get ready to adjourn for the holidays. This decision will end a controversial debate that has raged for 5 years over where to bury the nation's nuclear garbage.
We have an agreement. And from the state of Washington's point of view and the state of Texas, we're off the list. And that's exactly where we wanted to be. Nevada is there, a decision made politically, which may not be right, but that's sometimes the way things are done around here.
In fact, none of the people who put today's deal together represent Nevada. It's simply bad luck. None of them sit on the committee. So simply put, Nevada got dumped on.
Sunday Today is brought to you in part by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life.
What does that really mean? Think about it.
It seems to me that we have enough of these devices to make war. I think it's about time we started thinking about devices to make peace.
Take care. I love you very much.